Hey, what's up everyone? Lucas here. I wanted to make a tutorial for you TouchDesigner people on how to take a Python library that you want to include in your project and include it through TextStats instead of actually installing it as a custom Python library in a separate Python installation. The purpose of this is, you know, minimal. If you don't mind installing a Python library, it's obviously the better way to go. Uh, but if you actually want to distribute your TouchDesigner file to other people, and you don't want to have them install Python or copy over a huge installation directory, this is a way to kind of give them access to your library and give them like an all-inclusive, fully packaged tow file without all that extra overhead. So to kind of go through this tutorial, I wanted to use a library that was already out there so we could just kind of step through it quickly. This isn't a very complicated library, but it's complicated enough to kind of illustrate some of the main challenges and points that you would have getting this ported. FYI, this is a cool little image I found online of a Markov chain generated sentence. Basically, Markov chains, if you're curious, this is the library we'll be using. Is an algorithm that's used in statistics a lot, but people have also used it to generate pseudo-intelligent sounding sentences from a body of text, like kind of like machine learning, but not machine learning. Pretty cool stuff. But yeah, that's what we use as a library. So back here, I've got a clean instance of TouchDesigner, and I've got the library here on GitHub. So just to kind of show you in the preferences, I have nothing in the 64-bit Python module path. So we're starting from a very vanilla TouchDesigner version, and just to be clear on versions, I'm using 2017 15400 if you're following along, although I'm sure this will work in just about any version. So first steps to do, I think we just clear our scene and get this canvas ready to do stuff with. And then we gotta also download the library. So I'm gonna go back through this README here in a little bit, but for now let's just go ahead and get the files. Let's download a zip. I'm going to download it to this folder on my desktop I've set up for this tutorial. Okay, so here's the folder. So the first thing we want to do is take a look at the actual library and see what files we have and what they look like. So let's go ahead and open this up and just drag this file or folder out. And let's just go ahead and get rid of this zip file. Don't need that anymore. Alright, so first things first, I see a lot of stuff in here we probably don't need. This is going to be kind of confusing. So let's simplify this. I know some of this stuff is GitHub related, but let's just look at it anyways. So this talks.ini is deceptively not TouchDesigner related. Seems to be something to do with Python versioning. So that's cool, but we don't need that. We're not going to be too worried about versions for this example. The README, I know that's from GitHub, and we'll just read it on the website later. Licenses, you know, this is the guy who made this, Jeremy. This is his license, but we're not going to worry about this either for the purpose of this tutorial. Git ignore is absolutely a GitHub thing. You can delete that. Travis, actually never seen this before, but let's see. Oh, something to do with pip install and versions, so we can also just get rid of that. Alright, so we've got a little bit less clutter here. Let's take a look at setup. So what do we got here? Got some imports, the name. I'm not too familiar with Python setup.pys, although I see them all the time. But this doesn't look like something we need in terms of running the actual code. This seems like something for standalone installation for pip files and such. So let's go ahead and get rid of that too. Alright, and what we have left is this folder. This looks like our bread and butter. And then here we have test. Let's see what's going on here. Test iter text. Okay, so we got imports. It's importing the library. And some system stuff. We're loading something called Sherlock model. Okay, reading text as a Markopify object. So this looks like a testing file, which is in the name obviously, but just wanted to kind of like look at it and verify that and go through these steps with you guys. Alright, so let's take a look at this too. Just to be clear, I think this whole folder is pretty much deletable. Yeah, I think so. Test basic, let's just look at it. Yeah, okay, so let's go and get rid of those. Let's see what init is. Again, this is something else I'm pretty sure. This is nothing. Okay, yeah, so we don't need this either. This has to do with the testing folder only. But even if it didn't, init is something we shouldn't need for internalizing this in TouchDesigner, I think. Alright, so what we're left is texts, and I'm sorry, not that. We can get rid of those. What we're left with really is just this Markopify folder. So in here we have init and version. Let's just take a look at these, but I'm pretty sure we can get rid of these as well. Yeah, so init, there's not much going on there. Version, also not too much going on there. Let's go and get rid of those. Okay, so what we're left with is these. Let's take a look at these, but I think these are all necessary. Cool, so we've got chain. This looks like, okay, it's a class. It's got a function, and it's importing JSON bisect operator and random. None of those things are in this folder. Importing re, that should be included with TouchDesigner's installation. Over here we've got re JSON random. Hold on. So by the way, on chain, so we have a class, chain object, and then all the definitions are within that class. So that's fine. Splitters. Not sure what this is all doing. Looks like some string parsing stuff using re. Or yeah, okay. So these are all just helper functions and some definitions. Over here under text, let's see. Oh, this is a longer one. This is also a class. Okay, we're importing splitters, chain, and uni-decode. Interesting. That might be something for us to look at later. Cool. There it is again. So this seems like, wow, this is a really well documented library too. Cool. All right. So this looks like an important one, and then utils. Okay, so no classes here, just basically looks like two helper functions, and it's also importing stuff from both of these libraries. Okay, so cool, this looks pretty good. Just 4 files, pretty manageable. So let's go and look at the wiki here. Let's see how we're supposed to actually use this. Alright, so installation. Yeah, so they're going to talk about basic usage here, which is what we care about. So this is a very short example. This is great. So we're importing Markopify, right? Which in the world of importing modules, it's going to look a little bit different than how we're going to set it up in TouchDesigner. But essentially, Markopify is this folder, and I think the init PY files allow it to be treated as a library. I'm not quite sure how it works, again, because I've never really delved into that stuff. I just kind of briefly aware of it. So we're basically importing Markopify, which is a way of importing these 4 pages. Okay, cool. So next, excuse me, we have, it looks like a text file being read into memory. We can just grab this from a text top. Then we're building the model. Text model equals markowify.text with an uppercase. That's using our text body. And then we're just generating sentences. I guess these are just two different functions that you can use to generate sentences. So cool, this looks really simple. So the first thing we'll do is just copy paste this. I'll move some of this stuff to a different monitor. Move this over as well. Yeah, we'll bring this all back here in a moment, but for now, let's go ahead and put down a text dat. Let's call this run me. And we can just drop our text in here. Obviously now this is going to error very quickly, but let's go and do it anyways for the sake of trying things out. Let me go and get a script editor going too, so you guys can see the errors as they roll in. Alright, cool. So if we run this, we're going to get an error. Start from the top here. We've got the obvious error of no module named Markovify. Okay, so obviously we need to fix that, but there is not a file called Markovify, there's only a folder. So how do we do this? Well, if you've done modules in TouchDesigner before, you know that modules can be loaded through a text top as a text top. So I can have, basically some module, and then I can put a function here called def hello world, and I can say a equals 1, doesn't really matter, we're just going to print some stuff. Print hello. Okay, and so then if we open another text dat over here and we import that module and then do as ASD, doesn't matter, ASD.hello world, open close parentheses, and if we run this, yeah, we'll get our string. So this is basically a way of using text as modules. Again, this is all in the help docs for TouchDesigner. If you've used TouchDesigner for a while, you already know this. This is just the basics, but if you don't, just want to show you that so you can kind of see. So this is what we're trying to accomplish. We're trying to bring our code here into these text dats and then treat them as close to the same as possible, but we're going to have to make some modifications. I have a feeling the first one is pretty obvious, is the Markovify doesn't work the same way. So we need to actually get our text into TouchDesigner and out of these notepads. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's start by copying each of these 4 scripts into a text dat. So we'll call them the same things. We'll call them chain splitters text and utils. Alright, cool. So now we can actually paste this stuff into our network. Is there going to be enough room? Yeah, we'll make this work. And again, right now I'm still doing this blindly. I have no idea how this is going to work exactly, but I'm going to paste these in here like so. We'll figure it out later. Text, utilities. Cool. Alright, so done that. And if you're looking at this, I see another obvious problem that we're going to go and solve now. Is this reading from a path file. This isn't even a real path because it was in the wiki, so let's actually pull up our browser and let's just find some sample text. Sample text from book. Okay, let's see what we can find here. We don't want lorem ipsum, that's a little too weird and random. We actually want some writing, like book writing. Let's see, sample text from 50 Shades of Grey. All right, we're doing it. 14 naughtiest bits. All right. Okay, I'm just kidding. We're gonna do something a little bit more tame. Sample text from book. How about Harry Potter? Sorry to disappoint you guys, but if you're following along, you can do this later in your house. Sure, why not? Cool, we got some text here. It's exactly what we wanted. Let's just let's grab 3 paragraphs. No, let's grab 1 paragraph. We'll play with this more later. But for now, let's just put this in a text top and call this my text. Let's call it text to learn. Sure, why not? This is not space separated. That's fine. It doesn't really matter, I think. Okay, so we'll go ahead and say we're writing this to the variable text. So let's just go ahead and say text is equal to op text to learn dot text, and then we can pretty much just get rid of that. Okay, so import Markovify. This is where things are a little bit dicey because of the naming. How do we know where to start, right? What is Markovify? Where is it actually starting? There has to be a function that is being called first to trigger this whole set of code to do its thing. So in this particular instance, I kind of already see 2 clues. Markovify.text with an uppercase T. This is the class name. And then also we have text._model.makeSentence. So we can start by looking for these things in our code. And because we have these things now in TouchDesigner, I'm going to save, but I'm also going to go ahead and close all of those out, and we'll just open these. They can do that. We'll just open these in Notepad. And so that way we can actually work in here and save directly. So, all right. So here we have, I'm going to open this in Notepad++ as well. So we have this uppercase text. Where do we see this? Okay, it's not the first one. Let's do a find. Here we go. So we have a class called text. That's our ticket for sure. So we're creating a text object. Interesting. Okay, so we want to create text. So what we really need to import, we can go and comment that out, is we want to import text. Maybe text is a bad word to use for module, but let's go with it. Import text as T. Let's call it T. Alright. So we'll hit T. Overwrite that. Let's save. And this is obviously going to error again, but let's see what happens. Run. Okay, so we got an error. No module named UniDecode. We saw this earlier. I suspected it might be an issue. So check this out. This is kind of cool. Now that we've run this once, or we tried to run it, we see these dotted lines because this is obviously referencing chain and splitters. So now we start to see some structure to our code. So that's kind of cool, and it's kind of useful too if you want to organize your nodes a little bit better. Really, this is just like the import stuff up here. I think pulling these, that's pretty much how that works. But all right, anyways, we've got no module named UniDecode. All right, so the first thing I do when I see a problem like this is I Google it. So I'm going to open up a new tab and just search UniDecode Python, see what happens. There's a Python package. Well, since we're bringing all this into TouchDesigner, what we would preferably have is the code, right? We don't want the actual, pip install or whatever. We actually want the GitHub. So as we see here, Unity code is on GitHub as well. We can click on it. Okay. Same stuff we had before here: tests, tools, list tools, readme, check character names, Unity code. Interesting. You have an init.py. You have a bunch of these characters. What the hell? Okay. Well, this looks interesting. Let's go ahead and download this. To our same folder. Great. Let's go ahead and pull that up. And let's take a look at this Unity code. Oops. That. Alright, so I won't go through the same nonsense that we did earlier. We can probably just assume that we can get rid of those, get rid of setup, get rid of tests. Tools, not sure about tools. Let's take a peek at it and see. Alright, so it's importing Unity code, so we do not actually need this, it looks like. Alright. Alright, cool. Let's get rid of tools. We can always get this stuff back if we need to. Alright, then we have this nonsense here. Normally I would delete init.py, but since there's no clear, since these are all just like, how many are there actually? 186. That means nothing to me. Alright, well, let's take a look at init and see what it looks like. Translation, Unicode text in the plain 7-bit ASCII. Alright, cool. The straightforward map doesn't have any alternatives, the same character. Cool. So this is definition. Interesting. So this init code seems to import these other files. These here. What it seems to do so based on, so there is a .py file for every char or something like that. Modulo, well, okay, well, we gotta start with something, right? So let's go ahead and get this in the TouchDesigner. I have a feeling that this is actually a necessary piece of code. Alright, so whoa, what happens? Weird. Okay, so we're gonna just copy all of this, and we're gonna call it Unity code, right? We're not gonna call it init because that's weird. We're gonna call it something that the rest of the code wants to see. Unity code. Alright, so we can close init in our text editor. We'll edit this live one here. Let's go and save again. Alright, so we've got Unity code in here. Let's see what happens. Let's clear the script. Oh, hey, interesting. Look at that. It seemed to have linked itself. Everything ran without issues. Let's see what happens here. None. Interesting. Well, it's not erroring. It's giving us none. Well, let's see if there's anything about none here. Oh. Our codifier works best with large or punctuated text. If your text doesn't use .s in a sentence, put each sentence on a new line. Cool, so our text that we're using is not really formatted the way this wants it to be formatted. So let's find some different text. Sample text from book. Alright, just because I think curiosity is killing all of us, we're going to have to use 50 Shades of Grey at the very end. But we'll save that fun little exploration for that. Alright, let's try Harry Potter again, why not? It's the same website, it's getting to the same formatting. I don't care. PDF. Alright, let's try 3 paragraphs. There we go. So I think that's what it's looking for, although this is split up a little bit differently, but let's see what happens. Hey, we have text. Alright. So that is working. As you can see here, these 3 libraries feed directly into text. So we can organize this a little differently if we wanted to. Utilities, who knows what that does? I think it's let's look at it real quick. Yeah, I'm not really sure. I'm not too worried about it. Alright, let's see what we got here. This boy was another good reason for keeping the Potters arrived in the street. Oh, there's none again. I guess it just produces none sometimes. The Dursleys had everything they wanted, but they had never even seen him. The Dursleys shuddered to think what the neighbors would say if the Potters away. They didn't want Dudley mixing with a child like that. Mrs. Dursley pretended she didn't have a very large mustache. I like that. The Dursleys knew that the Potters had a secret, and their greatest fear was that somebody would discover it. Is that straight out of the book? The Dursleys knew that the Potters arrived in the street. The Dursleys had everything they wanted, but they had never seen him. Yes, this is a really interesting library. I have a feeling it does better with text formatted, certainly, and also just larger bodies of text. So just real quick, let's see what happens if we... wow, is this the whole book? This is the whole book. How's this online? Let's just select all of chapter 1. Okay, let's run it. The rumor is that Lily and James Potter are that they're dead. These dashes must have confused it. He flicked it open, held it up in anything that might be going on. He couldn't. There was a few minutes later, Mr. Dursley was the same markings around its eyes. Oh, so it's kind of fun. It's kind of interesting. The sentences don't make sense, but they do follow, I guess, some form of structure. So it's pretty cool. But anyways, I'm getting distracted. The point of this video was to show you guys how to import a Python library into a TouchDesigner file, keep it fully embedded. And that's pretty much the extent of the tutorial, but just to deliver on the promise I made you, let's go ahead and do excerpt from 50 Shades of Grey. Sex excerpt. So let's just go ahead and do this. What the hell? Alright, this is how you're supposed to play pool. These are very long. I want a longer excerpt. Oh man. I'm worried about the pop-ups when I start saying. Alright. Who cares? No, we need something raunchy. That's the whole point. We're worried about clicking on anything here. Chapter 16. I apologize in advance for this. Okay, this is all crap. Let's just go back to one we had. Alright, let's just copy. Let's just copy all of this. Let's see what happens. This isn't probably going to work either. It worked. He caresses my behind again and trails his palm across my behind again before continuing my spanking. He hits me again, slightly to the rhythm of blows, absorbing each one, savoring each one, ... relief. I cross my legs, I bite my lip. He guides me, and hesitantly I wonder... It's hard to tell how much of this is modified. Maybe because it's all in one sentence, it's using more of it. It's hard to say. Let's look at this real quick. You know what? I don't care. It's not the point of the tutorial. I wanted to show you guys how to install this, and I got a little bit carried away with that. Anyways, I hope that's useful. Hope that's interesting, and hope that was entertaining as well. So thanks for watching.